Meet Johnny. He's a student at a local university. During his downtime, he enjoys spending time with his friends Tyrone, Asia, Michael, and Tasha at a local coffee shop. Recently, Johnny hasn't been feeling like himself and has been spending his downtime alone at the local park. Furthermore, he has been going to bed early and telling his friends he needs to be rested for his heavy workload. Whenever Michael runs into Johnny on campus, he notices that Johnny looks tired despite going to bed early at night. He decides to invite Johnny to play his favorite sport, hoping to cheer him up. Before Michael can finish asking, Johnny declines and states he's just not interested. Whenever Johnny joins his friends, he seems down and uninterested by the activities. He usually leaves after excuses of needing to get rest. His friends are concerned about him as it's been a few weeks since his behavior started. Michael decides to assist by getting Johnny help. Johnny isn't happy about his actions, and Michael won't get any Medal of Honor or Gold Stars for helping his friend. At the current state Johnny is in, he can't see what is best for him, but with the help of a professional, Johnny just may start to be himself again.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Audi, and I am your host, Audi. So last week, we introduced mental health for the month of May. So this week, we are gonna dive into a specific mental health problem. The reason why we are going to look at this mental health problem is due to the fact that a lot of us are susceptible to going into this particular problem, due to factors such as our brain chemistry, genetics, personality, environmental conditions, as well as life experience, more specifically loss. Seeing that we all are likely to experience loss at least once in our lifetime, whether it's everyday items such as keys, or more drastically losing your job, or even potentially a family member. Someone once told me, all relationships come to an end. And if you haven't necessarily took the time to ponder on those particular words, it simply means that one day we all will pass away. And so if the natural end of a human life is by death, then we all need to learn how to deal with loss. Dealing with loss is a natural process for every culture as well as individual through a process known as grief. Grief has 5 main stages, which involves denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Anybody can go through those 5 stages in any given order. However, once you manage to find your way through those 5 stages effectively and more healthily, you come out of dealing with your loss as a better person and understanding what you have lost based on the emotional responses that you feel due to this loss. But if you don't manage to let your emotions and the things that you feel what you feel because your feelings are real. So we need to figure out how do we deal with those feelings when they come to dealing with something that happens to each one of us. So I want to focus on one of those key parts of the grieving process, which is depression. And I know this topic doesn't necessarily get a lot of limelight, and a lot of us don't want to hear about it because it doesn't make us feel good, but some of the people in our lives are likely to experience this particular state. But what is depression? Depression is a common medical illness that affects the way a person thinks, how they feel, and how they act. But fortunately, depression is treatable. There are a few different stages of depression. There's mild, moderate, and clinical depression, but however, the symptoms tend to remain the same. Here are a few things that you can look within someone else or even yourself to determine whether or not if you are experiencing depression. Loss of appetite, weight loss or gain not due to dieting, loss of interest in things that you once found exciting, feeling sad, feeling of worthlessness or guilt, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, loss of energy or even increased fatigue, difficulty thinking, concentrating or making decisions, thoughts of suicide or even death. Now I know a lot of these things may happen in the person's head, but some of those things you can actually look at and see whether or not someone is going through. But however, having a conversation with someone who has experienced a loss, you can be able to find out whether or not if they are grieving properly of the loss or whether they're experiencing depression. But depression, in order for you to be diagnosed with it, it must be that these symptoms have been exhibited in that person for a period of 2 weeks, and it must show some decreased level in that person's regular functionality on a daily basis. Now, if you think that depression won't necessarily affect you, you may think that you are stoic and nothing tends to move you in terms of your feelings. But like I said, your feelings are real. But likely people around you may be experiencing some depression. It is likely that 1 out of 6 individuals will experience depression at least once. On average, most people people experience depression in their late teens or early 20s, and women are more likely to experience depression than of men. But if someone is depressed and they have stepped into the stage where they're either mild or moderately or clinically depressed, there are treatments to help them overcome the symptoms that they're experiencing to help them to get to a better place. Some of the treatments include medication, which is usually for regulating the brain chemistry for people who are experiencing symptoms of depression. There's also psychotherapy, which is usually considered as talk therapy, where you see a professional and they help you to navigate the symptoms and help you to get to a better place. You can do this one-on-one or in a group setting so that you can talk with similar people who are experiencing the same type of symptoms as you are, navigating their grieving process and not necessarily getting through it in a healthy way. Another one is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is used to help a person recognize negative or distorted thinking to replace them with positive thoughts. Even there's self-coping, where you can actually try to cope with the situation through physical exercise, healthy eating, or finding a more balanced and regular sleep schedule. But most importantly is to your community or the people around you that can help you navigate your depressive state by telling your friends and your families. So my question to you is, what does depression look like? Is it what we see in the movies, what we see on the infomercials and the commercials? Is it what we read in the books? Because if you are looking for those things in terms of depression, you are likely going to miss it. Because if you knew me back in 2012, you would not be able to distinguish whether I was depressed or not, because I went through something during the time that nobody really knew what I was depressed about. So back in 2006, I lost my grandmother, and I completely denied her death for as long as I could by engaging myself in sports, schoolwork, work, going to the gym, and starting a whole new dieting regimen. And anything I could put my hand on to avoid actually coming to terms with a death, I went ahead and did so. And I feel as though in everybody on a daily basis, whenever we experience a loss, we do the same thing in terms of it. Some things are socially accepted, some things are not. I know it's like if you go ahead and start working hard, you're putting yourself into your work, and you're going ahead and putting in overtime and all of these things. These people that say, okay, he's crushing it, they're working, they're doing all they can. But then again, it's like if you experience a loss and you didn't necessarily went through the grieving process properly, how likely it is that you are going to come out of this situation a better person. Also, there's other ways people deal with it. They go ahead and have fun with their friends, consume alcohol, they could binge watch shows, get into their schoolwork, sports, anything that you can find as a distraction. We tend to use it to avoid the feelings and the emotions that we're experiencing while we are going through a loss. But then those feelings are natural, and they are part of us in terms of going through the process of detaching ourselves from something that was a huge part of our lives. But if we don't do it healthily, then at any given moment, a small situation that can make us just snap, and everybody around us is trying to figure out, it's like, this was nothing even big. Why are they even carrying on like this if this wasn't something they were supposed to get emotional about? But that was exactly what happened to me back in 2012. Is that after denying and not necessarily coming to terms and even going through this grieving process, I lost something that supposedly wasn't supposed to have any major effect on me. But then it's like all my thinking got distorted. Everything else in terms of me being a shell to myself, changing my diet once again for me to try to find some form of distraction. Even though I tried to find different ways of distracting myself, no matter what I did, I couldn't necessarily stop myself from going into this space where I no longer was able to think of anything except of negative thoughts about harming myself. But if I had told someone that I was, and maybe I would have gotten the help that I need. But then again, with the stigmas that are associated around mental health, maybe I would have just been labeled as something else. But the problem is, after we have actually acted on our thoughts and people try to intervene and help, it's somewhat already too late, because now it's more so in damage control. We miss the signs of trying to get the help for the people that we love. If it wasn't for someone who actually reached out to me, asking me a question, and eventually, through my answer, they were able to extend an invitation for me to come and talk to them, and they want to listen. And by them listening to me, they was able to figure out what was wrong with me. And I thank that person so dearly for them actually taking the time to listen to me. And even me finding the courage enough to go and actually see this person was enough of a strength in myself for me to get up and go ahead and talk to this person. Because if I didn't, and if I was stay in my head in terms of what people would think if I went ahead and talked to this person, then I don't know where I would have been today had it not been for that one chance occurrence of going to see this person and having a conversation that led me to grieve properly the passing of my grandmother, and helping me to get to a better mental state than I was prior to going to see them. So guys, like I said, we all experience loss. Grieving is natural, but grieving and depression are not the same thing because they have their differences. One is healthy, the other one is a distorted form of thinking. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And there's always outreach and crisis hotline, and even people in your life that you can actually talk to. They may seek the help for you if you don't necessarily feel like doing it yourself. But if you are experiencing the symptoms of depression for an extended period of time, up to 2 weeks, then I would recommend that you go ahead and reach out to the people who care about you so that you can get the help that you need. So with that said, peace, love, enjoyment, deuces. Hope you guys are taking your mental health seriously. I'm Audi.